The moment that I decided to go to the unknown without money in a foreign country when there's no smartphones, you need to find an internet cafe just to communicate with the world, but you are supported by a community of great Israelis, which was awesome. I never felt scared or alone at any point.
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. This episode is powered by J Ventures, a community-driven VC fund in Silicon Valley in partnership with Leumi Tech and sponsored by Hippo Insurance, Turing, Upwest Labs, and Hillel at Stanford. If you love hearing crazy entrepreneurial stories, then get ready for this one. Meet Gilad Shamri, the founder and CEO of Growth Artists. Gilad is a serial entrepreneur and the CEO of Growth Artists consulting agency based in San Francisco. By the time Gilad was 13, he already established 2 businesses, and at the age of 25, he managed to sell his first company. Now, with over 12 years of experience in helping startups in Silicon Valley find product market fit, he is writing a book about how to adopt his methodology to any type of business and every aspect of life. Gilad Shamri, thank you for joining me all the way from Silicon Valley to my couch in Tel Aviv. How are you today?
I'm great, thank you. It's Sunday here, and the sun is shining in San Francisco. When the sun is shining in San Francisco, we always need to be thankful.
I love that. I love that perspective. Gilad, Y Combinator startup, consultant, guest lecturer in many institutions, co-founder of your own initiatives, VP growth at a startup that was acquired by Wix, many more positions in many more areas. Previously in the Israeli Air Force, an interesting childhood to begin with, and all around one of the most interdisciplinary leaders that I've had on this show in over 400 episodes, which, when we started this, I asked you, Gilad, what are we going to talk about? Because honestly, there's not enough time to fit everything that I want to talk about. And so I think the best way, if you'll indulge in this, is let's just go back to the beginning. Talk about, your origins, who you are, and then we'll touch on a few fun things, but let's start from there.
Okay, first of all, thank you very much for having me, giving this opportunity to share my experience. I'm originally from the periphery of Israel, from a small desert town called Arad, where I grew up most of my childhood, but not all of it. Grew up with a single mother who was a teacher, and just raised me by her own. And because we didn't have a lot of resources, and didn't get any pocket money on regular basis, like most of the children in my school, I had to find ways in order to feel like everybody else. And there's not much that happening in Arad, but if there's one thing that Arad is known for, is the amazing music festival that was happening in the 90s on a yearly basis that actually stopped because of a horrifying incident. But until then, that was what Arad was known for. And and 7 years old I was when we moved to Arad from Jerusalem, I recognized the business opportunity. I was walking down the streets and I saw all these kiosks selling all these goods, and I thought, how can I leverage it into making into money? So, and basically all I wanted to do with this money is to buy Pogim. I don't know if you remember this, the Pogs. Everybody had it.
Of course.
I didn't, and I really wanted to be like anyone else, to have something to trade and talk about besides hide and seek at school. And so I saw this popcorn kiosk. And then one day I returned home and I asked my mom for money to buy groceries to make popcorn. She taught me how to make this popcorn. I created it. We cooked it together for the first time, and then we bagged it. She made like a really nice carton board with my name on it, Gilad's Popcorn. And then I just went to the streets and sold the popcorn. And in 2 hours, I was out of popcorn. I got so excited. I went back and created another batch. I did that. And in the next year, I already had like multiple friends, three of my friends
No.
who carried my brand name and sold this popcorn, and
What?
but I made less money, and then I had because I didn't. It was the first time I really hit like business when I'm like, oh, okay, so if we were selling 2 shekels for one popcorn, I cannot give 2 shekels for my friends to sell it because I'm not making any profit.
Right.
And that was my first like business lesson. And then I did that every year until the Arad Festival was closed, and then it was my bar mitzvah, and I got with my money that I got from the bar mitzvah. It was 1997, and I bought with all the money from bar mitzvah a CD burner, an HP 7200 with an external LPT connection. And at a time when a blank CD-ROM, a TDK CD-ROM, cost 25 shekels. This is nice. It's a lot of money. And I started. Basically, I was the only person in Arad who had a CD burner, I think, except for like the industrial places. And I just started selling games, pirate games in school. And I
Wow.
think I was the richest kid in my school. And when we moved to from Yesodi to Tichon, wait, how do you say Tichon
From
to high
elementary
school,
to high
basically?
school, from middle school to high school.
Yeah, my mom was already talking about that we're gonna leave Arad to Metula in the north, and I had to maximize this time in order to make as much money. So what do one do? He joined the school's newspaper as an editor. And there I was creating content. This is the first time I introduced by content strategy. And the first draft that I gave was basically a price list of how much and which games we have and how much it's going to cost you
No
to get
way.
them, where you can find me after school. And then the editor was like, no, 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 no. This is not what it's for. You said that you're gonna come and write about games and PC and I'm like, okay. So then I created this content about this horrifying quest game called Phantasmagoria, which was like really like not for our age to play. If you remember it, it is one of these games that we were like walking in a video in a horror movie, and within this content, I put in I implemented some stuff that's associated with selling other games that are in stock right now,
Of course.
and then and I scaled. And we left Arad, and everybody got after 1998. Everybody got a external CD burner already, and the business was not interesting anymore. And then I did every other I think Israeli route at that point. I did 3 years in the army, in the Air Force, and then after that I lived in Tel Aviv for about a year, and I went to I did Agalot in London, and then I went
Of course.
to South America. I traveled for 8 months, and that was the first time that I took a very bad tip. And this is one of those. I think this is a cross. This is something that I always go back to. That I'm thinking, okay, you get to a lot of crossroads in your life, and there's this one tipping point to where you could have taken advice from somebody. It will completely change your life. And whether it's for the best or for the worst is just a matter of perspective. And at that point, I was saving. I was making I think I had like $12,000 that I was supposed to go with to South America to travel for 8 months. And one of the ways that you can do that is, except definitely not take all this cash with you, but going into depositing into the bank account and then paying all these extras from it was London, so it was from pound to dollar to peso, and then which peso according to the country you are. And somebody gave me advice that I should just buy traveler checks. Traveler checks, I don't know if you're familiar with it, not very popular these days, but you exchange this $12,000 into checks that you can only cash out, and if they're getting lost, you can basically call and they'll provide you new ones because they're secured. And I bought the $12,000 to traveler checks. Started my trip in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, going towards Antarctica and Ushuaia, and going up towards Colombia. And that was the plan, at least. And then after 3 weeks, I was took a hostel in a place called Rio Gallegos. I got back to my room after cashing $500 of traveler checks, and I saw that all my traveler checks was stolen. Now, at first, I didn't panic because I said, okay, I'm just going to get them. It's secured. Little did I know that American Express, who provided these checks, would do anything they can to prevent me from getting these checks back. It was always under investigation for months. And my mom, which is a very supportive person, sent me her money to her very little money she had, like, so I could continue traveling, because we all knew that they're going to get this money back and they're going to pay her back. But at some point, I realized that they're just not going to send me back the money. And it was either going back to Israel and finish this trip after 2 months, or just going to the unknown.
Right.
And Michael, this is one of these experiences you asked me earlier. What will be this one couple of experiences that you think that really changed your life and created you who you are? This is exactly it. The moment that I decided to go to the unknown without money in a foreign country, when there's no smartphones, you need to find an internet cafe just to communicate with the world, but you are supported by a community of great Israelis, which was awesome. I never felt scared or alone at any point. As you know, 75% of the backpackers in South America are Israelis. So you it's like a very long.
Is that the actual statistic?
And that's what somebody said once. And actually, when you were there, you'll feel like it's more like 90%, actually, in those places where Israelis bounce around. And so I kept traveling, and I found my ways to creating capital so I can continue traveling, and all legal, just as go there, and at some point I got to Colombia, and it was with my last pennies, and then I realized that it's either going back to Israel or really continue traveling with nothing.
Right.
And fortunately, the universe came to help, was there to help me, and I found myself. By the way, I'm 5'6". I'm not a tall guy, but in Colombia, my look.
You just gave it away.
My looks were, I guess, somebody found interesting my looks there, and I found myself modeling in Colombia for like 3 weeks, doing $150 a day, and continue traveling. And when I back to Israel, I think when you're 21, you have this experience, like you actually managed to get to the bottom and got yourself out of there. So the amount of trust that you have in the universe, especially as an entrepreneur, is something that is absolutely priceless. You can do anything, and this is the thing that I was carrying with me, and continued traveling. I lived in Barcelona and in Denmark, and it was the first time that I went to San Francisco, and founded my first startup, TSPA, which was acquired by a competitor. It's a marketplace for salespeople. And then after that experience, I really wanted to do something impactful that is not necessarily money oriented. And
by the way, I gotta say that now, looking back at what you're doing, what you've done in the past few years, and hearing your journey and hearing your childhood and all these experiences, it makes perfect sense to me why you founded the organizations that you did, and why you founded Growth Artists and Lecturing and Growth X Academy and in the IDC and in consulting the startups, because and I think a lot of it goes back to those childhood experiences of selling popcorn and marketing your CD burner business in high school, or agalot, or getting through tough times while traveling. Just to give to, I just want to say that from an outsider's perspective, hearing about this journey makes a lot of sense. Why you're passionate about the things you're passionate about.
Indeed. Yeah.
So
I think it's,
continue telling
so
me. Sorry.
going back to, no, just saying, like, to summarize it, going back into experiences in life that you, in retrospective, asking yourself, should I have taken this advice or not taking this advice? Probably this bad advice that I took into getting to South America with traveler's checks compared to just a credit card is something that I would not have this experience without it, because I was just having a great 8 months of travel with my Israeli buddies, and I would have like the great experiences. But not likely that I will push myself into the situations where I need to create gold out of sand.
That makes a lot of sense. Growth artists, marketing, growth, working with startups. Bring me to today. So until now, we talked about your history, your upbringing. Today, Gilad, startups come to you for advice. You're working with marketers and growth people, from all walks of life. Why? What gets you so excited about growth, marketing, content, and how does that translate into your day to day today?
Great question. So, first of all, I'm in San Francisco, and you from Palo Alto, so you know that the difference between the entrepreneurs that come to and usually live in San Francisco compared to the entrepreneurs that actually live in Palo Alto in Silicon Valley is that in San Francisco it attracts mainly the early stage startup founders, and my specialty is marketplaces because most of my experience is building marketplaces. And when people come to me is because I provide a different perspective that is not necessarily technical oriented solution, but another way of looking and how to navigating your startup in order instead, and I will put it the brutal truth, is that especially with first-time entrepreneurs, what I'm trying to implement is to get them understand that they're not likely to succeed and generate growth with their first idea or product. But as you know, investors invest in a team because they know that they're more likely to pivot their idea and their product as long as the team is strong and they're capable to maneuver fast. And this is all about speed. So the brutal truth of how I communicate it to entrepreneurs is that entrepreneurship is a very expensive sport. And in order to succeed in it, you need to be in shape, and you need to adopt a methodology that will help you to kill your startups fast, not to succeed. Get your idea, break it down to assumptions, experiments, prioritize it, and kill it fast. Look for the things around you to prove that your idea suck.
Yes.
This is the change in the methodology that entrepreneurs need to start to understanding. Because you're getting into that, most of them saw a lot of TV shows, like from Shark Tank to the Mesudarim, of this idea that you're having this. What's the problem? Let's just get this idea. We're gonna be all millionaires, and we love this enthusiasm. This is part of it. You cannot do a startup without it. But it's a roller coaster, and you need to be mentally strong and to understand that this is a very long. This is not a marathon. It's you need to act like a marathon because you need to be fast. But this is a very long journey, and it doesn't really matter. Well, nobody cares about whether you succeeded in your first startup or your second startup. I think that the most important is that when you're having a good methodology and good guidance, you'll be able to learn from mistakes and experiments that you ran deeply in order not to go back to the same
Right.
thing. So, and this is what I'm trying to communicate in the book that I'm writing right now, called Growth Artists, and to really try to get this methodology out there mainly in the way that people see the progress of their startup.
Right. Gilad, I can't, 20 minutes always go by way too fast. There's 10 more things that we didn't even begin talking about, that I would love to pick your brain on, but I think we'll have to leave that for another episode. But in the meantime, I want to thank you for being both so generous for your time here, but also for being vulnerable and sharing with me, things all the way back from the childhood that, might not appear, in other places or on the headlines of TechCrunch or Forbes, but really they are what makes up the identity. And I think that you're absolutely right. When I think back to why I do the things that I do or the things that I care about, I think back to 8 years old and something that happened to me on my own post army trip, and those are the things that then make up us as entrepreneurs. So Gilad, thank you very, very much. I have one last question, the most important one, which is 3 words that you would use to describe yourself. And I apologize I didn't prepare you enough for this, but whatever it is, I'll take it.
Wow, I hope that you have beeps in this recording, but I would say a stubborn motherfucker.
You didn't give me a chance to say that we don't have much budget, so there's no beeps here. But I'll take it as it is. Gilad, toda rabah. Thank you very, very much. I'll see you for that beer in San Francisco that we talked about. And until then, stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Have a great day.
Thank you.